There have been a lot of commanders released into Rise of Kingdoms over the last month or so. I think it is 4 or 5 legendary commanders, and today I'm going to be looking at who are the strongest legendary commanders in the open field right now. So if you're interested in who are the best open field commanders right now as of December 2024, who are getting the best trades, who's dealing the most damage, then you want to stick around to the end of the video. Now let's quickly start off by going over how am I going to rank these commanders, and put very simply, I am just going to rank them on how well they are trading right now and if they're going to give you any big bonuses. So for example, a commander like Herman Prime, he's going to get ranked on how well he's trading with his best pairings and any bonuses he brings. For example, Herman's big bonus is his poison stacks, which allow your other marchers to trade ridiculously well. So a commander like Herman is ranked in that regard. That means commanders will pretty much be ranked on their overall value in the open field right now. So that is what we're looking at. It's going to include debuffs, trades, things such as total stats, buffs, whatever it may be. All that will be taken into account to decide who are the best open field commanders as of 2024. So now here is the tier list. And as we can see, it's got 6 total tiers, You've got the best. These commanders are the best in the game. There's nothing even close. You've got amazing. These commanders are often a secondary to one of the best commanders in the game, or a really, really powerful commander that you can use in a lot of situations. Can work. These commanders often older, but you can still get away with running them. Below average, these commanders you will struggle with running, often are going to get a bad trade, not your go-to. Weak, definitely don't want to use them if you really don't have to. And no is just never ever use them on the open field. And starting off with Leo Chair, straight into the best tier. Nothing has really changed. He's still really powerful on the open field, and in my opinion, one of the stronger commanders in the game. Nevsky right now in the amazing tier, especially for cavalry. There aren't going to be pretty much any Cavs in the best tier today just because they are really far behind. We are expecting a Cav cycle very soon, so I think Nevsky, yeah, he's kind of outdated nowadays. He still works. He's still amazing in my opinion. He just isn't meta-breaking level. Same thing with Joan. She's an amazing commander, but there are a lot more powerful AoE commanders. Alex, he can work. Get his relic, slap him with Leo Chair. You've got a good march. Slap him with, I heard him with Ragnar is also pretty okay. So Alex, he's a can work commander. Wizard Tiana, I wouldn't. I'm going to put Attila into below average. I mean, he's an older commander right now. He isn't the best trading in the game, especially on the field. Rally-wise, though, he can be a bit of a different story. Chandragupta, below average. There are better commanders with his debuffs, so I wouldn't say he is overpowered. Philip II, I'm tempted to put him into the best, and in my opinion, I think you could argue a case to put him there, but I want to put him in amazing. He's a really good commander, in my opinion, up there with some of the best investments. But he isn't the most overpowered right now. I think that when it comes down to it, he's amazing to have, but he's a bit hard to have. And if you don't have 5 marchers, you can't really get full value out of him. But he is an amazing commander. I think anyone with a murder ball of 5 marchers needs a Philip in there. He just isn't the best trading in the game. His buffs are amazing though, which definitely does get him into the amazing tier. And in my opinion, he's one of the stronger commanders in the game. I just don't know if I can argue him to be in the best. But I certainly can see some arguments to put him there. So I wouldn't say that he's not worthy of the best tier. I think that right now, though, he's probably in the amazing tier. Martel, definitely a below average commander. CJ, I'm going to put him in weak. Right now, I wouldn't run him. Cleopatra, I wouldn't bother. Gilgamesh, I want to put him in weak as well. He isn't the most OP on the field nowadays. Definitely lost quite a bit of value. YSS, definitely a weak commander. Oh, no commander, sorry. Edward of Woodstock, he's weak. There's some uses by mixing and matching his skills with other commanders, but otherwise, he really isn't the most overpowered. In my opinion, he's not a real go-to commander for most players. John, the newest commander in the game in terms of MGE, I've seen a Mr. Siege video. He looks like he can work. He doesn't look OP yet. Granted, his other pairing, Stefan, also isn't in the game, so I'm going to put them both in can work. John is around, I think, rank 6 in terms of Siege March pairings from what I saw. If you put him with, I think it's Garjamada. Stefan isn't in the game yet, so we don't know what he could actually rank at, but I will just put them in can work. They might be really good when Stefan releases. We'll have to see once he's fully in game, but I don't know when he's going to release, because he's kind of been sitting around for about a month or so, and I've been waiting to make this video, so I'm just going to put him into the can work tier. Xiao Xiao, he's going to go into no. Charlemagne, definitely a no. El Cid is a no. Frederick is a no. Constantine, he's weak. I mean, he's got the tankiness to him. He's good with a buffing march, maybe early game. But in my opinion, it's not something you would really invest in. Goboda, I'm going to put him into probably the amazing tier. He's one of the best range commanders in the game, and they get really, really good trades. Pakal below average, definitely not one of the strongest commanders in the game. Cyrus, probably a weak commander right now. Honda, below average for sure. Zenobia, I wouldn't run her on the field. Ethelfled, she's kind of weak at the moment. I mean, you can maybe use her in the really, you can definitely use her in the really early KVK. She's an okay pairing with some commanders, late KVK 3 maybe, but in my opinion, she's a relatively weak commander. Guan Yu, he can work. He's solid. He gets good trades still. He can be a really good supporting march with that silence. He just is not absolutely meta. Thutmose, probably going to put him in below average. I could argue that he's in the weak tier, but he's still got quite a good number of stats, and you can use him KVK 1, 2, 3, and even into Season of Conquest, which is definitely nice. Now, granted, we are getting the commander swap very soon. I'm going to make videos on that as well. Just at the moment, it's not in the game, so I think that Thutmose, he's a bit of a mid-commander overall right now. Khan, I'm going to put him into weak, in my opinion. Not really 100% go-to commander. And if I were you, I would probably skip him. Scipio Emilianus, he's probably a can work. I mean, he's okay on the field. Not meta-breaking, not super amazing, but he isn't too weak. He's got some good damage. He's definitely got up-to-date stats. He is just a bit of a rally commander, and he's not fully built for open field fighting. So that does make me say probably a weak commander, not really an absolute meta commander. Belisarius, I'll put him into amazing as well. Similar reasons to Philip. Really good for a supporting type of march. He's got good debuffs. He's got good buffs. I mean, he's got good stats overall, I guess. But mainly his debuffs are what makes him really amazing. His all damage debuff and that rage reduction make him a really powerful commander. It's just he's not absolutely meta in terms of damage and trading, which means he isn't going to be in the best tier. So I think Belisarius good for a 5 to 6 march mutable. Otherwise, I wouldn't run him. And if you don't have 5 marches, I definitely wouldn't consider him. He has to be in a 5th march or a 6th or a 7th march before you really consider using him. Otherwise, you don't get nearly as much value. Suleiman, we're going to ignore. Yanziska, he's weak. He's not a no. I've seen him used on the field. He can work barely, but I wouldn't do it if I wouldn't have to. Theodora is a no. Harold, below average. Can work with Pakar, can work with Alex. I heard it's mid with Ragnar as well if you really wanted to. But he's not the most OP commander nowadays. Still nice for city popping, I'll give him that, so you can definitely city pop with him. But I wouldn't use him in terms of just a constant open field type commander. He just isn't strong enough. His stats are just too old. Jadwiga is a no. Caesar, probably into the weak. There aren't many good pairings from at the moment. The best is probably Hao Che Bing, and even then it's not the best pairing. Definitely not the best pairing for Hao Che Bing, and I think Caesar is getting a bit outdated. Lu Bu is a no. Mehmed, very similar to Honda, below average. You can use them. They're both going to work with most commanders. But nowadays, if I had the option, especially between a Honda, I'd rather pick up a Philip. He's A, going to give you more buffs, and B, is going to trade pretty much similar, if we're being fully honest, because Philip is even decent in a 1v1 situation. Mulan, she's probably a below average as well. Her buffs are mid. I mean, now that Philip's in the game, I'm actually going to put her in weak. Now that Philip's in the game, I wouldn't really run her. There's almost no reason to, unless you're doing something like a Sunset Canyon. Jia Yung, he can work with Shajar, but Shajar definitely has much better pairings. She's got commanders like Dual Lang, she's got commanders like YSG, and she's also got commanders like Philip, who are really, really good on the open field. Ragnar is a weak commander. I mean, I wouldn't run him unless you absolutely had to with an Attila, and he's definitely nowhere near overpowered on the open field. Leonidas is a no. Bertrand, he's weak. He's got okay stats. You can maybe get away with him, but he wouldn't really be my go-to. Ragnar, on the other hand, I'm going to put him into the best. I can't argue right now that Ragnar is not up there with some of the best commanders in the game, if not the best commander in the game, because he just trades so good. His AoE is really powerful, his overall damage boosts are powerful, his draining effect is really good. A lot of stuff in Ragnar's kit works really, really nice. So I think Ragnar is an amazing commander right now, arguably trades better than CPO. He's just not my top investment because he's very limited on his pairings. He's really, really good right now. Arguably, Ragnar and CPO Africana, is the best trading march in the game right now because it's a really, really good double AoE beast. It just comes down to, will we see more skill damage commanders as to whether or not you should invest in him. But right now, definitely an absolute meta commander. Little Chair we've done. Herman, I'm still going to put him in one of the best. He's really good with Dual Lang. His debuff is still very, very decent. And with the rise or return of Ragnar, I would say, or the return of skill damage through Ragnar, I would say that Herman Prime has got a good shot of getting a little bit more value out of him than what we initially would have thought. Henry, he can work, not overpowered nowadays, but he's still a fairly solid commander. Hannibal Barker is a no. Flavius, he's weak. I mean, you can maybe get away with him in some super obscure situation, but he wouldn't be a go-to for me. Shajar is definitely an amazing commander. She's got really good pairing synergy with Philip II. Apparently their healing goes really well, and she can trade really amazing with him, and it can work amazing in a 1v1 situation. and she's also an overall good archer commander. I personally run her, she works amazing with my YSG, and she is a very powerful commander. Boudica Prime, she can work. Not overpowered, but definitely a solid commander still nowadays. Only thing she lacks is a bit of stats, and in my opinion, that isn't the biggest problem. Eleanor's a pretty weak commander for the field. She wouldn't really be my go-to. She's more of a garrison commander. Tarek's a can-work commander in my opinion. He's got a good amount of strength to him. He's a pretty decent infantry commander. He just isn't absolutely meta. I think he's probably weaker than the majority of the can-work commanders, but he can work in some situations. Minamoto, probably the same case. He can work really good KVK1, really good KVK2, got an amazing relic, good single target DPS, so he can work, but he just isn't the most overpowered. Ditto, definitely a no for the field. Ramsey's really weak, probably edging onto that no right there, but in my opinion, I'd put him in weak. Gorgo is definitely a can-work commander, really good in terms of smite damage, but not the most overpowered in the game. There are definitely some stronger smite commanders out there who would put her to quite a bit of shame. Richard, in my opinion, he's a no nowadays. I really wouldn't do him unless you absolutely had to, because he just is not powerful enough. Saladin, probably a weak commander nowadays. I would say that he isn't the most OP on the field. He isn't going to get the most kills. He isn't going to get the best trades. There are certainly quite a few better commanders over Saladin, unless you're in like a really early KVK. Heraclius, he's weak on the field, similar to Jan Žižka. Possibly you can get away with him because they've got some AoE, but they're not going to be strong enough to be a proper commander. I would say that you should go out of your way and invest in. It just wouldn't make any sense. Sargon, weak as well. Sorry, below average in my opinion. He just isn't strong enough. I think he's a bit weaker than Tarek. Tarek has overall more utility in my opinion. He can work in some situations, so I think he's like probably the top of below average. But in most places, Sargon can really struggle to get a good trade, especially if you can't stick to your opponent long enough. He tends to have too low on damage factor, which really does screw him over. Pyrus is a below average. I don't want to put him into weak. I think he's an okay-ish commander if you get his relics, and he can work with quite a few infantries. He's just definitely not near the meta. He's probably around the same power as Thutmose, and I'd put them at almost an equal level. Ishida is a no. Justinian, below average as well. He can work for like 3 to 4 cav marches. He's probably a touch weaker than Minamoto in my opinion, but he is okay on the open field. Ashurbanipal, I'll put him into amazing still. He's a really solid open field commander. He gets very good kills, and overall he is quite strong. Gajamata, I'm going to put him into amazing, and I'm going to put Margaret into can work. Gajamata is going to go above Margaret this time because he seems to work a little bit better with the new range commanders, which I mean, I think it makes him a slightly stronger commander overall. Margaret, though, definitely still a really good pairing with Gorbato, but in my opinion, Gajamata might be a little bit stronger. Zulang, definitely one of the best in the game. His AoE is insane, his damage is insane, and his pairings are really good. William Wallace, probably an amazing commander. I don't know if I'd put him into the best again. He's probably being a little bit outclassed by Ragnar, and in my opinion, I think Ragnar is a slightly better open field commander, especially if you do have Scipio Africanus as a pairing. Speaking of Scipio, I'll also chuck him into amazing, probably the top of the tier right now because you can put him with that Ragnar Prime. And if you couldn't, Scipio would probably be going down to the can work tier, but because of the Ragnar Prime pairing and how strong it has been, I think that he's got a lot of potential to be a really amazing open field commander. Nebuchadnezzar, probably a below average commander, not weak. I think there are definitely some better commanders out there, but he's not absolutely abysmal. He's just a below average, and in my opinion, there are a few better commanders. Moctezuma is a no. Artemisia, probably a weak commander nowadays. She lacks on pairings a lot. I wouldn't put her with Boudica because Boudica is too outdated, and other than that, she's pretty much got nobody. Mana Torre, even worse situation, only works with Artemisia and definitely doesn't work anymore. Takeda, very similar to normal Ragnar, so in my opinion, he is a weak commander, can work with Attila, but just isn't going to be the most overpowered. Tamaris, also a weak commander, because of Herman Prime, there is just a better pairing or commander than her, who is going to trade relatively better. Hao Bing, definitely a amazing commander, He's got really good damage, really good stats. He just isn't the most meta right now. I think a lot of the Cavs are in that situation where they aren't the most meta, which means a lot of them aren't in the amazing tier. So I expect that we see some really good Cavs in the upcoming update. Otherwise, I'd be very shocked. I think that Hao Bing and the new Cavs in general, just all the cavalry in general, do deserve a stronger commander that can just guaranteed be in the best tier, like the archers and infantry who have quite a few commanders up there. Trajan, definitely a weak commander nowadays. You'd much rather have a Philip in your mutable, and Philip and Trajan doesn't seem like it is the best pairing. William, below average, definitely much better commanders out there, not the best buffs in the game, and there are a much stronger choice of other commanders you can pick from. Zhang Yu is probably also below average, I'd say. Kind of weak nowadays in terms of his overall damage. Definitely too squishy compared to a lot of other commanders. And his best pairing with Nevsky is no longer really a thing. So I think Zhang Yu, probably a below average commander. Same thing for YSG, relatively below average. There are better commanders, and he just isn't the most meta. Finally, the final Siege commander, I will just slap into amazing. Oh, sorry, can work, because a lot of the Siege commanders can work really, really well. So I'm going to put Barber into can work. It's a solid commander. He's going to trade really good if you just put him and you sit in the back and just snipe people. So in my opinion, he's a perfect definition of someone that can work. So now here is the final tier list. I've organized the top 3 tiers, so the top 4 tiers, so the best, amazing, can work, and below average, in order, a rough order of what commanders I think are the best in the tier to the worst of that tier. So for example, in the best tier, the best commander in my opinion is probably Liu Chair, followed by Ragnar, Zhulang, and Herman Prime. And then in the amazing tier, it's probably Philip, CPO, William, Shajar, Nevsky, Joan. And I think you get the point. In that order continues down to the below average. I didn't bother changing around the weak, and obviously I didn't change the no commanders, because really these commanders, they're all relatively bad in every single situation, and you don't really want to run them unless you absolutely have to. So I've reorganized the list in that order to kind of make things flow a little bit nice, so you can kind of choose an away from the best commanders in the game down to slightly weaker commanders and make your decision of who are the strongest in the whole entire game as of 2024. Now, if you enjoyed today's video, I want to ask you guys for a very small favor, and that is consider subscribing to the channel. Subscribing really helps me out. I would say it's a really amazing Christmas gift for those who celebrate, and it is just a good way to show that you guys do appreciate the videos or you find them interesting. So if you're interested in my videos, or you're interested in the content, or you just find the way I talk and present stuff interesting or helpful, please do consider subscribing. It is a massive help, and I do greatly appreciate it. Other than that, I just want to say I thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.